Welcome to the Metal Bob Live podcast. I am your host, Metal Bob. Today's show is brought to you by Legend Picks and also artist Jeremiah Kalleck. You can find links to our sponsors and more at the Metal Bob Live website. There you can also find the latest Metal Bob gear, including shirts, hoodies, and more. On today's show, I had the honor of speaking with vocalist George Call of the bands Aska, Cloven Hoof, and also Banshee. We discuss all three bands and more. So sit back, have a listen, and enjoy the show. Thank you. All right, on the phone with me is Mr. George Call. How you doing, George?
I am doing great, brother.
Doing great. So, hey, man, I see that you you recently got with the I don't know if it's recent, but Cloven Hoof, man. You want to give us a little insight on how you hooked up with those guys?
Absolutely. I hooked up with them. I've been a fan of the band since high school, since I was in high school, where we discovered that, the first album there with Laying Down the Law and Cloven Hoof and Night Stalker, all those fun tracks. So I was a longtime fan of the band, and we were playing a show in Germany when, Aska, when my band Aska was playing a show in Germany, and I saw that they were going to be on the bill. They were one of the bands on the bill, and they were on top of everything else. They were playing the same day that we were, according to the bill. So before we left the States for Germany, I made sure that I brought my my Cloven Hoof CD covers, because I wanted to get them signed, and I brought them with me, and we played our show. And as it happened, they were on right after us. On the bill in the lineup, and we had come off stage. We were in the green room, and we were pretty excited. Our show went really well, and we had a really great reception. And as we were, changing and putting our guitars and gear up, I wondered. I asked a bass player, Keith Knight. I'm like, man, where's Cloven Hoof? I thought they should be here by now, because they're up next. And Keith kind of goes, here, I think this is them right here. And I turned around and I saw these guys changing into their stage gear. And I immediately recognized Lee Payne of Cloven Hoof. And I said, hey, are you Lee Payne of Cloven Hoof? And he said he was. And immediately, I went from there. I told him I was a huge fan, and would they mind signing my CD covers that I brought with me, from the U.S. And he did, and, we hit it off. And apparently he'd been out there watching us before, when we were playing, before their set started. And I guess he liked what he saw because, I told him that, hey, if you ever need, help doing anything, whatever, dude, I'm available for you. I'm a huge fan. I love your band. And but he had watched me perform. And he's like, wow, you're that great singer, man. I just saw you. You're fantastic, and blah, blah, blah. And so it was kind of, the admiration I already had for Cloven Hoof, I was getting back from Lee. And then a few months later, we were back in Germany for the Sword Brothers Festival. And once again, we were on the same bill together. And I guess a week or maybe less than a week to go before the show, I got a call or email from Lee Payne of Cloven Hoof saying that some of their guys had quit the band and whatever, and would ask him mind learning some Cloven Hoof songs to play on stage with them at the Sword Brothers, because they weren't going to cancel, even though they'd suffered some, band member attrition there. So I said, of course, yeah, I would love to. And, we learned some songs, and on the, a week or two later when we were in Germany for Sword Brothers, we actually got together, went up on stage with the band and played the songs so that Lee and the singer Russ North could get up there and do their set, at least try to salvage some of their set. And we learned the songs that we totally learned, and it went over well. And right after that, Lee contacted me, asked me to help him do some demos because Russ was, I don't know, they were having trouble with Russ, and he was leaving the band. He was wanting to quit the band or whatever. So I helped him. I did some demos. He liked it, and from that point, and Russ did leave the band. They got another singer, Joseph Whelan, in there. He did an album with them, but he went off to do X Factor. You know that show that American Idol, right?
Yeah, X Factor. That'd be the British version.
Yes,
right.
The British version of American Idol, and so Joe went off to do that, and so then Lee asked me to start working on an album for Cloven Hoof, and which I immediately agreed to do. And he started sending me the tracks, and so we started working on it collaboratively. Them in England and me in the U.S. Me and the actually Aska drummer Danny White. Also, he worked on it too. And we ended up, we put out, I guess, my first Cloven Hoof record entitled Who Mourns for the Morning Star in 2017, I believe it was. And then, or was it, 2018 maybe. 2017 or 2018. And that's how it started, I did that first record with them, and now I'm on working on my third album for Cloven Hoof at present. So it worked,
Man, I tell you, buddy, I don't know how you do it, man. You sing for a lot of different outfits, brother.
I do. I'm currently in Aska, Cloven Hoof, Banshee, and one more. I've got another project going with Scott Dolliver of Dangerous Toys called Legion of the Dog, but that's in we're still in the writing stages for an album there. So, but right now just 3 bands that I'm full time that are actually working bands, recording bands, and touring bands. And that's Aska, Banshee, Cloven Hoof. But, you gotta, if you love something, and you gotta do it, time is finite, it runs out. And, my aim is to do as much rock and roll as time allows me, as my voice and time on this earth allows. So I just want to get as much done as I can, before I'm in the grave.
Well, I'll tell you what, buddy, you keep yourself pretty busy, man. You put out some solid records too. I wanted to comment on that last Banshee album, The Madness, man. That was flipping amazing. I mean, and that was the follow-up to Mind Slave, which was also another killer album.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you liked it. We're very happy, getting a chance to do, 2 Banshee records. And right now, Terry Dunn has currently started writing album number 3. So hopefully we'll, at some point this year, we'll get in the studio and start working on that, start recording it,
Great.
Start laying it down.
Yeah, Terry, he's a cool dude, man. I've had Terry on. I'll probably have him on here, in the near future. And we talk a lot about the recordings and the, just how solid.
Great.
They're just solid albums, man. Both, them last 2 records are great.
Well, thank you very much, man. A lot of the early Banshee fans, we're certainly not expecting Banshee to continue, and when they did, and then they heard the kind of direction we went in, which was more a continuation of the that first record, the EP, the Cry in the Night EP.
Right.
I think people were pleasantly surprised and happy, because it kind of took the band back to, that Cry in the Night EP, the band was kind of heavy, Maidenish or whatever. And then when they signed to Atlantic, the band kind of went far more commercial, hair metal, trying to please the powers that be at the label and whatnot. And we kind of took it back when I joined the band into a heavier direction, a more like a more Sabbathy, priest-infused version of the band than had been the case prior to my joining, and a lot of people were not only surprised but happy.
Oh man, yeah. I mean that first EP, "Cry in the Night," and and then you go to help me out here.
It was Race Against Time.
Race Against Time. Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's like almost two different bands there.
Absolutely.
I mean, it ain't, but it sounds like two different bands.
It really does. It seemed like a complete about face, and it was. I mean, clearly it was a move to placate the powers that be at the label. Atlantic wanted hits. They wanted a commercial hit maker, and with Banshee they saw a bunch of pretty boys. They all had the hair and the look and everything, and they wanted to kind of capitalize on that. Unfortunately, it just I don't think Terry was happy with that direction. He's expressed to me that he always wanted to kind of continue what they'd begun with the Cry in the Night style, and that much was clear because when I was enticed to join the band, the demos that were presented to me were very much in the far heavier style than the Race Against Time or Through the Storm had where the band had gone with those records. So I mean, in fact, I think if they'd presented me some real commercial hair metal type stuff, I probably would have turned them down because it's not my thing. I like I like more of what we're doing with Banshee presently. I'm a more traditional metaler, less the commercial metal, less. So I was really happy with the songs that he had showed me and from that made it onto Mind Slave. I was blown away, in fact, by those tunes, and I knew that I could deliver on my end because most of those songs they didn't have lyrics or melodies; it was just the music, and so I came in and wrote the melodies for most of them and the lyrics for most of them as well. Terry had some melodies and some lyrics, but we work well together and delivered two killer records,
Yeah.
and look forward to doing the next one.
Oh yeah,
Follow up for the Madness.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to that. So now on to Aska. You just recently did a show with Aska.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Yeah,
man?
yeah.
You probably ain't been getting to do a whole lot of those right now, so I bet that felt pretty good, man.
It felt great, and unfortunately, it also kind of felt weird when we did the first one because we've done two now since the pandemic. Since the virus broke out and whatnot. As you may or may not know, or maybe your listeners may or may not know, Texas is it's always been one of those very independent street type states, and we have opened up under certain circumstances and allowed for shows. And I think the criteria is if a venue also serves food, they can do shows and whatnot, and they can open for business. And so a lot of places that previously didn't have food kind of added it to the menu so that they could have live shows. And that was the case with the venue in Dallas called Trees, where I think they kind of brought in a food truck and whatnot, so they kind of skirt around the rules and start doing some shows again. And we did Dallas Power Fest 2 there with a complement of other bands, Hellstar among them, one of the more recognizable names there. And we went and there was Infidel Rising as well, which is a new Pure Steel signee. And we went and we played that show, and it was the first one back, and it felt kind of weird because, the crowds were, there were a lot of stipulations and regulations that they had to follow. Like you had to have a mask if you weren't eating or sitting or drinking. If you're just like wandering through the club, you're supposed to wear a mask. You're supposed to socially distance. They had tables on the floor so that people could be at tables instead of kind of just filling in the floor area. And, with all that kind of thing, it seemed like it kind of stifles the mood, the reaction of the people. But nonetheless, it was fun. It was a good time. And we did it again, I think the following month. Either a month or two later, we did it again. We did a show in a place called Mavericks in Arlington, Texas, and where Aska played with some killer bands, Siege Hammer and some other bands there. This time the mood was far different. I think people were more kind of like now a little more accustomed to getting back out and doing this kind of thing, where it didn't feel weird,
Right.
But I mean, I think people still, people are still kind of iffy about the whole thing because you've got mixed messages. You've got the national news media and the health centers saying one thing, and they change their stance pretty much every other day, every week. It's something they wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear two masks. No, you're fine. You're locked down for 2 weeks. No, locked down for 3 months. Don't do this. Don't. It's just such contradiction in terms that it kind of leaves a lot of people feeling like, well, what the hell? What are we supposed to do here?
Right.
And so people kind of fly by the seat of their pants or take their own initiative and lead and do what they want and say, fuck it, all these rules be damned, we're going to do what we want to do, but still, in the back of your head, you're kind of like, man, what if the cops come out here? Are they going to shut us down? And what if you do get sick? What if somebody gets, it's you just wonder. But, the bottom line, I think, the pandemic, the virulence or certainly the mortality of this virus has been oversold just a bit. You know what I mean? Because we're almost a year into this thing here. I mean, we started the lockdowns last March, if you recall, and March 2020 is when the whole lockdowns began. Here we are, February 2021. We're almost a year into this. We still have a degree of lockdown. And in that entire year, I've not had any close relatives or any dear friends succumb to this illness, to the COVID-19. I've had some fans die. I've had a fan die for sure. One fan for sure that I knew of, and a guy that played in a band that I knew that died. But I said, I'm thinking 2 people, and I know a lot of people. I've toured 60 countries, met people all over the world. So knowing, 2 actual people that have died in almost a year, shit, man, I've known far more people that have died of other things than of this deadly pandemic virus that shut down the entire world.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of an overreaction, if you ask me. But whatever. I played ball. I wear my mask. I do what they ask with as little fuss as possible. I have bucked up and got really frustrated with things at times, but for the most part, follow the rules and whatnot. But
we do what we got to do, right? We do what
we got to do. But it seems, it seems like a drastic, extreme overreaction, and it really just makes you question everything.
Right. So I was going to ask you too. I didn't mean to stop you, but I wanted to ask you.
No.
I know you're a guitar player too. Were you a guitar player before you were a vocalist, or did you
I
always
was.
know? Did you always know you were going to go to the vocal part of the whole deal, or what?
I was always a guitar player first, and I always thought that I could be a vocalist, but I remember one time recording myself and listening back. And I thought, okay, I sang that really well. In fact, I was singing Elton John I was doing an Elton John song, and I just kind of recorded myself singing it and listened back to it. And I was horrified by what I heard on the tape. So I was like, oh, well, forget that then. I'm not a singer. I'll stick to the guitar. And so I just played guitar. And later, in my high school bands, we had the toughest time finding, singers that were worth their salt, or their weight in gold or anything. And they weren't much better than what I thought I was. So my guitar player at the time, Darren Knapp, who had co-founded Aska with me years later, he was telling me, man, dude, you just sing for now until we find a worthwhile singer, somebody that's legitimate that can do it, and we should be fine. And so I did that, and I sang in my high school bands. I don't think I was particularly good. I was okay. I was passable, but I wasn't great or outstanding or anything that would turn anybody's head by any stretch of the imagination. Years later, we graduated high school. We left the Canal Zone, and we started, our band in the state. We started Aska, Darren and I. And again, we were had the same dilemma, having a hard time finding singers. We finally found a guy, and he didn't he quit after a year. He started laying all these terms of, what he expected, what we had to do if he was going to stay in the band. And we're like, man, we're not going to play that dude. Either be in the band or, see you later. And so we decided, we split ways with that guy after a year, and just had the hardest time finding singers. So once again, Darren's like, dude, you're a good singer. You sing. And I was like, no, man, dude, I can't do it. And he insisted. So at his insistence, I began singing for Aska. And but because I wasn't anything special, and because we loved bands like Kiss and the Beatles, bands that had multiple singers, or not just one guy, not bands that had a lead singer, but bands that had multiple guys in the band that would carry the lead vocal.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of liked it. Blue Oyster Cult did that.
Right.
Kiss did it. The Beatles did it. I mean, several bands over the years. Ted Nugent did it. He used to have himself and a vocalist. So we went that route. So I would sing, I'd say the lion's share, and then Darren would sing a few songs, and Aska bass player Keith Knight would sing a few songs, and that's how it went. Just until about we did our third album in '97, which was the Nine Tongues album, and we did it that way with three singers. We put it out, and when the reviews came in, this was our most reviewed album, and when the reviews started coming in, almost unanimously, they were saying, "Wow, man, we really love these songs, and but not so much these." And the ones that they seemed to all love were the ones that I was singing, and the ones they hated, and certainly the ones they just destroyed. They hated with a passion. They were like, "What are these songs doing on the record? These songs don't seem to fit. These are terrible, and this would have been a better record if they left these songs off." And it was the ones that they sang, right? And so we started thinking, man, maybe there's something to what they're saying, maybe we should just, the next record, which was to be, Avenger, which was the next one, we were like, maybe I should just sing them all and then see if they like that better, and see if that gets us more notoriety or, has a greater impact. And so we did that as an experiment. And I sang all the songs on Avenger with the concession being that, that I would do a duet on one of the songs on Valkyries. Darren and I split the vocal and sang it kind of as a duet. And sure enough, the reviews were the best of our career, to that point. It was... everybody's like, wow, this band is great. And then, we were in the Hard Rock magazine in Germany. We were in the magazine as one of the bands to watch for. And, just all, Europe wide, across America, everybody seemed to really like Avenger, and we chalked it up to, the unified direction. And whereas before we were kind of, you couldn't tell who we were because you had three different singers. But when I just took over the vocals, it kind of gave the band a unified sound. You could recognize us now based on, because my vocal was the same throughout. So I just went from there, and I got stronger and stronger as a singer, as the releases went, and to the point where, I guess I kind of figured out that, that I got my shit together. I mean, that I was, worthwhile singer when I had, all these bands chasing me down to sing for them.
Right.
Where we went from, looking for singers, now suddenly I was the guy that was being headhunted, I had, Banshee trying to get me to, Cloven Hoof. I mean, all these bands. And I'm not, not just the ones I joined. I sang for Mick Servino, who was Yngwie Malmsteen's bass player. He was also in Blackmore's Night with Richie Blackmore. I mean, a guy playing with Blackmore and Malmsteen, and then, recruited me to sing for his band. So, I mean, clearly I was in demand, so to speak.
Yeah. And you were an Omen for a while too.
I was an Omen. Yeah. I got in that band. And so, and bands were asking me to guest on their record. I mean, none of these things had happened to me before, and all of a sudden everybody was after me, Lorien and Axe Viper and Emerald from Switzerland, and on and Axe Viper from Germany. Axe Viper from Italy, and Warcry from Germany. Lorien from Singapore. I mean, bands from all over the world were hitting me up. I got there was a band in the Middle East that asked me to sing for them. So it was at that point I kind of figured, I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Yep. This is my job now.
Yeah. So, but, Aska remains the only band that I sing and play guitar for, because I started as a guitar player. The other bands that were recruiting me typically had guitar players, and they weren't recruiting me for my guitar playing ability. They were recruiting me for my, my singing, my songwriting ability, my singing, my melodies, whatever.
Right.
And so I figured, why complicate life? So if all the other bands that I'm in, I sing, and Aska will remain the only band that I play guitar and sing for. And we did at one point I tried to turn Aska into a 5-piece where I would just sing, because I was enjoying it with the other bands, and it didn't work. It kind of lost the dynamic. Was gone. Aska works better with me on the guitar in that band. And so, but with the other bands, I'm adamant that I just sing for them.
Right on.
And that always, so whenever you see a picture of me on stage somewhere with a guitar, even though I'm in multiple bands, if you see me on stage with a guitar, 100%. That's an Aska picture.
Right,
that was taken at an Aska show. And if you just see me with a mic, then you can pretty much guess that it was one of the other bands.
That's good.
It's Banshee or Cloven Hoof or Omen or something else. But and so that's how it came about. So yeah, man, great question, because rarely do I get asked that, and it is quite an important piece of thing, because I never considered myself a vocalist initially or originally, but I thought I was a good guitar player. But it went that my singing has far overshadowed my worth as a guitar player to all these bands. Nobody's asking me to play guitar, yet everybody wants me to sing for them.
That's not a bad problem to have. I mean,
that's not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah. So, do you have a particular guitar player that you looked up to growing up?
Yeah, well, I have a band that I looked up to, and that was Kiss. And so the guitar player would, by default, as far as the lead guitar player, would be Ace Frehley. I loved Ace, I loved Kiss, I loved all those guys. and what they were doing. And I mean, I was the kind of Kiss fan that would sit at the bike rack, after lunchtime, between classes or whatever with the other guys, and get into arguments with the other guys that Kiss was had better musicians than Rush. As silly as that sounds now to say, I mean, clearly the Rush guys could play circles around Kiss, but my fervor, my love for that band was to such a degree that I was, the love was blind, I was hearing with my eyes, I was enamored with the makeup. I just thought that band was great. I loved their songs and everything. And I saw that they were passionate about their playing. I mean, if you watch, early Kiss videos, if you see Peter Criss playing, I mean, he may not have been Neil Peart technically, but goddamn, that dude put a lot of heart into his playing.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He was just like on fire back there, and so was the rest of the band for that matter. Ace with the smoking guitar, and Paul with his moves and his Who inspired guitar windmills, and Gene with the blood spitting in the fire. I mean, I was taken with that entire spectacle. And in fact, seeing that band, not only did they become my heroes instantly, but they changed the course of my life, because up until I heard and saw Kiss, the pictures and whatnot, I didn't see them in concert till years after the fact. I lived in the States, but when I heard that band and saw their image and read up on them and everything, up until that point, I wanted to be an astronaut and whatever the usual things that kids all want to be when they grow up. I want to be an astronaut.
Right, absolutely.
And then I saw Kiss, and I was like, oh my God, I want to play music. I want to be a musician. I want to be Kiss. I want to be like these guys, or follow that route. And I never changed course. That was with me, from that point on, and it became my life's mission to learn how to play, to join a band, and I started doing that right from the onset. As soon as I was in high school, I had several high school bands, and continued on after high school, and do it to this day. And I was fortunate enough to start touring in '92. Before anybody really knew who Aska was, we were, we just had one album out at that point. We had already started touring the world, doing contract work for the U.S. military, for the Department of Defense, the USO, playing for military personnel stationed overseas at, hardship locations, the battle locations
right
around the world. I mean, my first international tour was right into the heart of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and,
wow.
All that, these danger zones,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't stop. We did that for 8 years, man.
Wow.
And released albums throughout, and just we would do album and then tour cycle. We'd go out for 2 to 3 tours a year, do an album, and then go out for the next year or two, doing 2-3 years of tours, and then do an album and repeat. And for 8 years. So it stopped us from being better known in the civilian circuit, but on that military tour circuit, man, everybody knew who we were.
That's great.
And unfortunately, it predated social media, so we didn't get to take advantage of the, of all that. Oh, go to our Facebook and give us a like or watch our, it predated that kind of stuff. So we didn't get to take advantage of that, But we still, to this day, we have so many fans and friends that we met during those early periods touring for the military. Playing in Korea, Japan, Australia, Singapore, Guam, you name it. Dude, we were there.
That's killer, man. Plus, you got to see the world too at the same time, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. On the back of a guitar, guitar strapped to our back, we got to see the world, and it's like I was able to shut my mom out. Oh, rock and roll, forget that. that doesn't lead you anywhere. I said, well, it's led me to 60 plus countries so far, that I didn't have to pay for. I didn't have to pay for it out of pocket. I was paid to go to those countries and play and perform for them. So, yeah, man, I'm very happy. No regrets.
Right on. So, hey, I was going to advertise a little bit here for you. So, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. So, askaband.net, correct?
Yes, under normal circumstances, but I think we lost that domain name.
All right.
And we don't at present. The official website is down until we get a new domain name. And so for now, you can go on Facebook.com. If you go to Facebook and put Aska DFW.
All right.
And the DFW means Dallas Fort Worth. So Aska DFW, and it takes you to our Facebook site. So the official website's down until further notice, but we are in the process of getting it back up.
Right on. And then BansheeRocks.com, I think that one's still up there.
Yep.
And you can find Cloven Hoof on Facebook as well.
As well, yes.
Yeah.
There is an internet presence for all the bands, and you can also find us individually. I'm on there, George.call.71 on Facebook. I've got an Instagram, but I don't use it. Twitter, I don't use it. I gave those up. I once the social media started purging people and censoring folks, I figured, okay, I'm just not going to play their game. I'm not using any of their sites except one, because I'm not, they're not going to beat me. I'm going to use them as much as they're trying to use me. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So I maintain one. I keep one that serves my purposes, and then the other ones that they would like for me to have, sorry, not having them, not using them, not logging in, not posting anything to them. And, they're there to maintain a minimal presence, but the only one I'm actually active on is Facebook.
Right on. Well, George, man, it's been great talking to you, man. I really appreciate your time tonight.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure, Bobby, and I appreciate you reaching out, and, I hope that I managed to answer all your questions there as succinctly as possible, and I encourage your listeners to keep supporting true and traditional heavy metal, man, because without them, we couldn't continue to do what we do and have it be as fun or as cool, or as lucrative, especially now with COVID having shut everything down for a year. It's been a bitch especially for touring and for live and all that stuff.
Right.
Thankfully, we did manage to hunker down and whip out a new Aska record. We recorded a new Aska record in that COVID shutdown time. So our seventh album will be out this year, probably in the summer or early fall.
And your last one was Fire Eater. Is that the last one you guys did?
Yes, sir. Fire
Right
Eater.
Fire Eater. That's a great album. But
thank you.
Well, George, it's been awesome, man. I really appreciate you, brother.
Well, thanks for talking to me, man, and keep it metal, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Absolutely, man. We get these new records out, man. These Aska and Banshee and all that stuff. We'll have to have you back on.
Well, I appreciate it. I'd be happy to come back.
All right, George. You have a great night. Take care, brother.
You too, Bobby. Be good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That concludes today's episode of the Metal Bob Live podcast. Please go to our website for our sponsor links. Thank you for listening. Metal Bob out.